it will never happen. The church will take over entertainment. The church will take over politics. The church will take over sports. The church will take over government. The church will take over. It will never happen. Fool is not an insult. Fool is a description of their mental status. Just like Paul will say to Galatia, oh foolish Galatia. It's not fool, it is fool. Slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Question, which prophets? Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. Are you following now? Because everything Jesus will do has been spoken. Nothing new. It will be what has been written. Then watch the next verse. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? If you read well, shouldn't you have known that this death was as it was written for the redemption of mankind? You wouldn't have thought of political relevance. You will have been thinking of salvation, but you are not reading well. It's like those churches that preach 7 mountains. 7 mountains. It's rubbish. They are students of these disciples. They are an extension of these disciples before Luke 24. 7 mountains. The church will take over entertainment. The church will take over politics. The church will take over sports. The church will take over government. The church will take over. It will never happen. Because Jesus said, my government is not of this world. You are in this world, but you are not of this world. Am I teaching good? So that day will never come where the church will take over government, the church will take over sports, will take over entertainment. It will never come. Never. In fact, sometimes when even Christians become rulers in politics, they perform worse than unbelievers. Because they go there with church mind. You don't go to government with church mind. You go to government with government mind. I'm apt, right? I know what I'm talking about. That's why Christians in office, instead of working, they are reading the Bible. So they are never promoted. Then they will say, I'm being victimized. No, you are not being victimized. You are being a dummy. Instead of walking, they are praying. The files are sitting there, no signature. Your boss comes and your eyes are like this. He says, this one, transfer. This is an afternoon witch. Transfer this one. Am I teaching good tonight? Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and enter into his glory? If the church will ever take over politics and entertainment, it will have happened when Jesus was on earth. John the Baptist tried it. We know the outcome. He tried to take over. We know the outcome. You know the outcome, right? Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. That is the mandate of the church.
You are going to be hearing this for the first time. There are 7 mountains of influence. Some of us are already aware. I want to remind you so that we can pay attention to it properly. For instance, we have governance and politics. What are we doing to raise people in that dimension? Are you aware that Joseph was on that mountain? Esther was on that mountain. So the language in the church should not just be people becoming maybe pastors or preaching or being a worker in the church. No, that place, Joseph was doing ministry in governance. Daniel was on that mountain. Esther. Esther was the first lady of the greatest empire of her time. Can you see it differently? There are people in your church that are Esthers. There are Josephs in your church. So when I'm talking to people in our church now, you keep hearing things like, God is raising new generation Josephs. God is raising new generation Esthers. Let people start hearing that God is raising them. They're in the midst of darkness, because Esther was in the midst of darkness. Joseph was in the midst of darkness, but God raised Joseph on that mountain. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were on that mountain. And maybe you are here at Switch, watching from any part of the world. That is your own mountain. Every Christian, if every human being, you belong to a mountain, a primary mountain and a secondary one. Every human being, you are crafted for one. Now the moment you now get saved, God wants to use you in that sphere. It's not enough to be in church as a worker, but when you step out and you step into that mountain of influence where you are working, the kind of area you are impacting, it must show like it showed in the life of Joseph. My primary mountain, for instance, is religion. I'm called to ministry, but my secondary mountain is governance and politics. I'm not playing with it. I believe God is raising new generation Esthers. Look at what Esther did. First lady, enjoying herself. And when something happened, he said, I'm going to fast. We are looking for such people in our churches. That can be a governor or a commissioner or a local government chairman or head of a parastatal or somewhere in that sphere that can fast and pray. Esther fasted and prayed 3 nights and 3 days. And she switched. There was a switch. To encourage them in your assembly that God is raising Josephs, God is raising Daniels. And when we begin to do our discipleship, which I want to encourage us to do, it's not just enough, thank God for praying in the spirit. You must let them know how sophisticated those mountains are and what they should be ready to face. Because we send people out that are not prepared. Daniel was not a thief. And yet he ran leadership for 80 years plus. Do you know that? Or 70 years. He worked with 4 regimes. So you don't have to thief, to steal, to remain relevant. You tell people in our churches, you are becoming the local government chairman. Remember that the journey is far. Don't use local government to spoil your future. There is state, there is Senate, there is federal, there is United Nations, there is ECOWAS, there is African Union. There are levels. Don't stop it. Don't spoil it because of one little thing God is testing you with. Let's train them. Joseph was not an adulterer. Tell them that as you rise in power, men or women will tempt you. Train them. That sustained Joseph. All those mountains, they have the attacks the enemy uses to bring people down. So you look at Daniel. She said, I have vowed that I will not eat of the king's delicacies. But check me after some time and see who is better. But he had power. They conspired against him. He said, I God first before this portfolio. That's how you should train people. God first. Not that you start worshiping your position. God gave you the position. God first. If he went home, opened the door, opened everything, say if you like.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video in the comment section.